AITA for not standing up for my family after my wife laughed about their news. When I was 17, I had a girlfriend who cheated on me for my brother. We had been together since kindergarten, and even though our relationship was fake in elementary and middle school, we decided to make it official in high school. However, after a year of making it official, my brother informs me that she and him are seeing each other behind my back. I was devastated, especially because my parents were aware, but despite the fact that I had informed them first, they continued to believe the relationship was lighthearted. After that, I decided to focus on school and leave my parents' house, especially since they didn't have the courtesy to be romantically involved in private. She still tried to apologize and ask if we could be friends, but I ignored her. After graduating, I relocated to Texas at the age of 19 and only contacted my family on holidays. After 2 years there, I met Amara at a bakery her mother operated, and we became friends first because we both had trust issues, but we made it official a year later. The relationship was great, I loved her family, and they loved me. The wedding was absolutely wonderful, even though my parents and brother did not show up despite the fact that I had sent an invitation and called them the day before, and I realized that if my wife ever got into an argument with someone, even if she was wrong, I'd always defend her. Now, a week ago, my mother called and asked if we could talk. She was on speaker because Amara and I were cooking. She is aware of what my family has done and how they have supported my brother, so I didn't mind putting the phone on speaker because the only conversations I have with my family are about my brother. So my mother goes on to tell me how my brother and ex are getting married and he wants me to be his best man. There was a little silence until Amara burst out laughing, and I followed in. My mother hung up, and I didn't bother calling her back, instead enjoying the night with my wife. The next morning, I received angry text messages from my brother and father about how I had damaged my mother's feelings and made her weep by not warning my wife not to laugh. I do not believe I did anything wrong. I technically accomplished nothing, but it was childish and done on the spur of the moment. So, AITA for not standing up for my mom. Update: Hello, I'm here to tell everyone what happened in the week following the initial issue. After a week following the incident and numerous rude texts from my brother and father, I decided to contact my brother and tell him how unfair it was for him not to attend my wedding but then invite me to his. Well, some of you were correct. My brother refused to attend my wedding, so my mother cooked up a tale rather than confess the truth. He never asked me to be his best man, nor was I even invited. I called my mother and inquired what was going on, and she told me that all she wanted was for her boys to get along again. Even if I had accepted the now fake offer, the issue would have been far worse because I was not invited. I've decided that for the sake of my wife and my future, I will minimize my contact with my family. I also wrote in the comments that my wife is expecting, so I have something to look forward to instead of a shit show. Amara and I appreciate the wonderful sentiments from some of you. Update 2. I believe I provided the first update last night or yesterday, but hey again. The crisis has now spread to my wife's side of the family. My ex's friend discovered the post, and I'm guessing the word traveled quickly, as I began receiving texts from my immediate family as well as my ex and brother's friends. I ignored it at first, until some extremely terrible things were said about my wife's family and pregnancy, causing her to have a panic attack since she couldn't calm down. I'm not sure if I could convey what they said because it was so harsh and racist. I've gone from texting only a few times to ignoring my entire family. I've decided to switch off my phone completely. I love everyone, but I'm going to spend this time with my wife and her family. We're now focusing on the pregnancy and getting everything ready for 9 months of fun and crazy cravings. Update: Hello. Exactly 21 days ago, I made the best decision of my life. AITA for cutting off my mother when she was getting a paternity test for my daughter. I've been with my wife for 8 years. We have 2 children, a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. I knew when my wife became pregnant that our daughter might not be my biological child. I do not care. She is my daughter, and my wife has never been unfaithful. However, I've never desired to know whether or not she is biologically linked to me. Edit to provide the complete story because people believe she cheated. My wife and I were together for almost 2 years before we had a quarrel and split up. We were separated for 3 months, during which time we both slept with other individuals before reconciling. After about 2 months of being back together, my wife discovered she was pregnant. We were aware that one other man could be the biological father, and it was a toss-up between me and him, but mine was more likely. My wife was honest with me about having slept with other people when we got back together, and I was equally honest, and the window of conception for our daughter was just large enough that we couldn't say for certain whether she was conceived while we were together or apart, and while she offered to have our daughter tested, I didn't want to know. My entire family was aware that we had broken up and gotten back together. She clearly resembles her mother. She has the same dark hair, dimples, and bone structure as myself, and I see elements of myself in her, mostly in her mannerisms, with the exception of her brown eyes, which are different from mine and my wife's. Meanwhile, my kid, with his green eyes, blonde hair, and bone structure, resembles me and is completely different from his dark-haired, dark-eyed sister. My mother has seen and commented on it frequently. This definitely raises my wife's hackles, both because of the facts behind it, which my mother is oblivious of, and because she and my mother have had a few disagreements before. They are quite different people, and their personalities simply do not blend. Then, a few months ago, my wife's sister and my best friend, they're married, were involved in a car accident. They were in the hospital with one of their 3 children, while the other 2 were at home alone, so we asked my mother to watch our children while we helped. Our children were with her and my father for around 5 hours. Last week, my mother came over and said she had something important to tell me. When she had my daughter unsupervised, she used one of those DNA test kits on her, comparing it to her own DNA, which she apparently ordered months ago for this exact purpose and was waiting to use, and it confirmed my daughter is not biologically related to me, so she began telling me about a lawyer she could put me in touch with to start divorce proceedings. I reminded her that this didn't change anything. She was still my kid, and she was referring to my wife. Mom was surprised and called my wife some names I don't want to repeat. I told her to leave my house. It's been almost a week. I notified my wife, blocked my mother on everything, and there have been frequent calls and texts. My mother is outraged because I never told her I had an inkling and has since disowned my daughter, but she claims my son is still her special little guy and wants a relationship with him but not with my daughter. In addition to my mother, all 5 of my siblings, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and father are upset with me. They want me to contact them again, and a number of them have even suggested that I thank my mother for what she did since she was looking out for me, which I now understand. However, I cannot rationalize my mother sneaking behind my back to obtain a DNA test for my daughter without informing me. AITA for insulting my brother at insecure, testicle-grabbing, chauvinist man-baby because of his remarks about my wife's makeup? That is the genuine quote. I'm still upset, but maybe I went too far here. My brother and I are in our late 30s. My brother and I get along well most of the time, but he struggles in social situations. He says improper things, becomes overly opinionated, rants a lot, etc. He simply does not seem to understand tact or when to let things go in a casual discussion. Our wives are best friends. They communicate practically every day via FaceTime. My wife is a former model/actress, local, who is very talented with cosmetics. She's in her mid-30s, has 3 children, and rarely wears cosmetics, but she received some as a Christmas gift and decided she wanted more. Apparently, she had been buying inexpensive items and wanted to splurge on some good goods. Anyway, she's been experimenting with it all for the past month, buying more here and there and doing these crazy makeup things that I honestly don't understand. She looks fantastic all the time. She's stunning without makeup. She's very talented at it, and she's having a lot of fun. I tease her a little since she works from home and is dressed in pajamas, but her makeup looks like she's at a club. I think it's charming and humorous. My brother believes she is doing it because she is cheating or wants to cheat. He phoned me this morning to express his concerns since he has seen her on FaceTime and believes she is posting or sending images to some male or multiple dudes. I attempted to dismiss it and explained that it wasn't that way, but he became more aggressive, so I ended up yelling at him and saying the insecure testicular man-baby stuff. He's being silly and should mind his own business. But I think I'm the asshole for blowing out and calling him names when he undoubtedly had good intentions. I'd also like to add, my mother and brother both inquired, and perhaps others will, that I haven't asked my wife why she's just started wearing more makeup, and I'm not going to since I believe it's kicking disrespectful. She spends her money on facial products as a creative hobby. I'm not going to be the jerk who ruins someone's creative outlet by pushing them to justify it or implying there's a hidden motivation behind it. It makes her happy, which I presume is why she's doing it. In my perspective, asking why is both silly and offensive. AITA for telling my son that if he changes his last name, I will no longer be his father? Let me start by mentioning that my son, Adam, is 22 years old. When my ex-wife, Tori, and I tried to have children, we discovered that I was infertile. We chose to adopt, and around 4 months later, my ex-wife is pregnant. I was ecstatic because I assumed the doctor had made a mistake. No, I was mistaken. My ex-wife cheated on me, and I just found out 20 years later. Tori told me 2 years ago that she cheated on me, and we took a paternity test to confirm that he is not my real son. My ex and I got divorced a few weeks later. Since discovering the truth, my kid has wanted to meet his biological father. He did, and they began to get pretty close. It stung far more than I expected. He's an adult, he can make his own decisions, but it hurt a lot. They began to form a strong bond, and Adam got increasingly distant from me. It has been like this for over 1.5 years. I tried texting him to arrange dinner plans, but he said he was busy with Chris, biological father. I tried to contact him several times by phone and text, but he never made plans other than a meal every other month. We used to do things every other week, but now that he knows about Chris, everything has changed. I could not stand it. My kid, whom I raised since he was a baby, treated me as if I didn't matter. Even when we had plans, he remained cold and distant. What I mean is that he became far more protective of his personal life. When I asked him how his classes or friends were, he would just answer things were fine but never go any further. He also changed his major from economics to computer science and didn't tell me until 1 year later. I told him how much he was hurting me since he was so aloof, and he apologized and promised to do better. He never did. I told him several times, but he never changed. He was still distant. The last straw for me was the phone discussion I had with him last week. He stated that he was planning to change his last name to Chris because he liked it so much and they were close. I couldn't believe what I heard. I told him, I can't believe you're going to do this. That truly disappointed me. If you desire to change your last name, go ahead. However, if you do, I will no longer be your father, and I will not be involved in your life. He hung up on me. I didn't bother contacting him because I knew he wouldn't react. I stand by what I stated. I meant every word, and I still do. The change in my surname indicates that he no longer considers me a father and considers Chris to be his, despite the fact that Chris is 22. My family told me I was being unreasonable, but my best friends thought it was acceptable. I was told to post it here. So, Reddit, am I being an asshole? Information, something to add. After learning about Chris, I went a few days without speaking to my ex-wife or Adam. They did not contact me. I did not contact them. I needed a break. Edit 2, many of you have asked for a deeper significance behind this, and I believe I've finally figured out why he has been so frigid. My wife and I had a lengthy dispute a few months before she revealed the truth. His grandmother, my mother, left him a large legacy, which I am entirely in control of. Enough to cover educational expenses while yet leaving enough wiggle room to avoid constant stress. After a semester at university, he began dating this girl. He was deeply in love with her. I never met the girl, so I have no idea how she felt about the relationship. After a few months of dating, Adam asked me for approximately $3,000 to be placed into his account from the inheritance. I had already paid for the semester, so this seemed unusual to me. I asked Adam why he needed the money. He explained that his girlfriend was having difficulty paying for her tuition and begged my son for assistance. I told him no, since it appeared to me that she was treating him like a piggy bank. He spent more than $1,000 on her in just a few months. He would continually brag about how much he enjoyed going shopping with her and buying her things. I was correct in believing she was just interested in my son's inheritance. What I basically said to him was, Adam, you haven't been dating this girl for very long, and giving you that much money just to spend on her after a few months doesn't sit well with me. That is the money your grandma left you for your college education, not her own. If you two were more serious, I would consider about it, but I'm not giving you that much money to simply give your girlfriend. It turned out that my prediction was correct, and she was after his money.